Hi, everyone. Hello, hello. How's it going? Wow, this chat is moving so fast. I love it. So many folks joining from all over the world. All right. We're going to go ahead and get started. Yay! First EtSEO event of the year. I am so excited for this. I'm so excited that you've all joined. Thank you so much for being here. We have a really great panel planned for you today. So if this is your first EtSEO event, you've never tuned into one before, let me give you just a little bit of a rundown on how today's event is going to go, how the panel will work. We'll begin with some quick introductions. Some of the faces here you've seen before, some of them maybe not. So we'll do a quick round of introductions. We'll have each panelist share what they do here at Etsy, how their work relates to search, and then we'll do a brief overview of how search works on Etsy. Then from there, we're going to dive into the main event, our listing critiques, and we'll be reviewing 5 listings across a variety of categories. So first, huge shout out to everyone who submitted a listing over in the forums. As you know, we are not able to critique every single one of them. If your listing wasn't selected, or if the listings we're reviewing today are not super similar to what you sell, we hope that you'll still find the insights shared today really helpful and applicable to your own listings. Perhaps you can use it as a bit of a framework as you work on your own items. So I'm going to be switching screens a lot today. Just a heads up, you'll see me looking here, looking there. I've got all of the listings pulled up, some notes, and we're just going to be going through them as quickly as possible so that we can get you as much good information and insights as possible. So bear with us there. Also, there is going to be a Q&A at the end of this event after our listing critiques. So when it's time for Q&A, we will open up the Q&A feature and you'll be able to drop your questions in there and we'll do live Q&A with our panelists. Also, there's going to be a little bit of a surprise at the end. If you've attended an EtSEO event before, you know the drill. If you haven't, stick around as live attendees will potentially get a little surprise at the end. All right, we're going to move over into intros now. So I'll go first. My name is Isabella. I work on Etsy's community team, and my team is really focused on getting you the latest and greatest education and resources, ensuring you have what you need to feel set up for success, running your Etsy shop, and hosting community programs like this event, as well as programs in our forum spaces on social. So my team's a little bit everywhere, and we love seeing you all. So thanks for being here. Mary, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'd love to. And we love you, Isabella. I am Mary. I lead the merchandising team here at Etsy. My day-to-day is all about making sure your listings are shown to the right buyers. And we work with our marketing channels to develop the content and campaigns that we're amplifying with buyers. I'm really excited to be back here with you all today.
Thanks, Mary. Katie, over to you.
Awesome, thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie, and I work on the seller education team at Etsy. In my role, I'm focused really primarily on education resources for sellers. So the seller handbook, which includes our ultimate guide to search, shameless plug, and also the Etsy Success YouTube channel.
Thanks, Katie. And now a new face for us on EtSEO, RG.
Hello. It's my first EtSEO, and I'm so happy to be here. I'm RJ. I'm a product manager, and I lead search. So my primary job is to make sure that search surfaces all these amazing listings that all of you amazing people have created. I'm so excited to be here, talk through listings, and just I'm in awe with everything that you all create for our marketplace.
Thanks, RG. So happy you're here. It's great to have someone from the search team on our panel. All right, so before we jump into the listing critiques, I'm going to do a very high-level overview of what SEO is and how search works on Etsy. A lot of you may have seen this information before, so I'm going to go through it quickly. If you haven't seen this before, definitely check out that guide that Katie mentioned in her intro, the ultimate guide to Etsy search. Everything you'll ever need to know about Etsy search is in there. Also, you can watch some of our previous EtSEO videos. They are over on the Etsy Success YouTube channel, where we dive a little bit deeper into what EtSEO is, how SEO works, and specifically how it works on Etsy. All right, so search engine optimization. What is it? SEO is the process of optimizing your listings, your shop, your website, your blog, whatever it is you're putting on the internet to make sure it's easily discoverable by search engines. So how does SEO work on Etsy? There are actually two phases of how Etsy search works. So the first phase is query matching, and the second phase is ranking. So let's say I'm a buyer, I'm shopping for something great, a gift perhaps, maybe I'm doing some Mother's Day shopping, I want to get a gift for mom. I'm going to go into the Etsy search bar, and I'm going to start typing in what I'm looking for. The first phase of how those results then populate is that query matching. And so Etsy search looks at all the inventory of listings that include keywords and content that match that buyer's search query. Then phase 2 takes place, and that's the actual ranking. So all of the eligible items to appear based on keywords, based on query matching, are then ranked based on a variety of factors. So it's based on information within your listing, your conversion rate, a lot of other factors that we'll go over in a second here. But really the goal is to ensure that people browsing Etsy are seeing the items that they're most likely to purchase prominently in those search results. So query matching, this is all about the keywords. Where do those keywords show up that are pulled for that first phase of search ranking query matching? These are words and phrases that are in your tags, your categories, your listing descriptions, your titles, and your attributes, things that you're setting up when you create a listing. And then phase 2 takes place, ranking. So relevancy is a big factor here. When we say relevancy, when your tags, your titles, your listing descriptions, your categories, your attributes, all those things I just mentioned, when they match your shopper's search query, they are relevant based on the exact matches within keywords. Then there's shop quality. So this is something that helps buyers know who they're buying from. Your shop icon, for example, is a factor here. Different signals across your shop that signal to potential buyers that they're going to have a great experience. It's kind of about like branding and building trust. Your customer service quality is also a factor here. Your listing quality is a factor here. That could be anything from, do you have high quality photos attached to the listing, to do you have shop policies in place? Are you being transparent about things like returns and exchanges? Then there's the listing engagement rate, which we also refer to as your conversion rate. So we look at whether or not the listing is going to be appealing to the potential shopper based on things like, has it received clicks, and then engagement, add to cart, purchases, the last time somebody searched for it, the last time somebody searched for something similar to that buyer, landed on it and engaged with it. That's your conversion rate. We'll talk a lot about conversion rate today. Then we have shopper habits. This is another factor when it comes to ranking. All right, now I'm going to ask Katie to chime in here. Katie, there are some really great tools available to sellers right now that can sort of help them think about things like query matching and ranking. Can you talk through some of these tools?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to talk about two different tools that are really great just to have in your toolkit as you're working on search engine optimization. The first is this search visibility page, and it shows you how your listings are performing in relation to some of those things that Isabella just talked about. So your shop, your listing, and your customer service quality. And it pairs that with actions that you can then take to improve your overall search visibility. And to see this for your own shop and see personalized insights and recommendations, you can just check out the Etsy search visibility page in your shop manager. And then the next tool, and this is maybe my favorite actually, is the Marketplace Insights tool. So we know that keeping up with what buyers want can sometimes feel like you're just guessing. And that's why this tool is so special to me. I think it really helps eliminate some of the guesswork that comes with creating new inventory. And it gives you insights that can help you work smarter, not harder, which is ideal. This tool uses Etsy search data to show you what buyers are looking for in real time and how often they're searching and the level of competition for some of these different search terms. So it's really fun to play around in there, and you can use the tool to optimize your listings, to plan out inventory, and to spot trends that are unique to your category and your sort of listings.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, I'm really into Marketplace Insights right now. I could get stuck in there. It's kind of fun. Okay, we're now going to just call out a few Etsy SEO best practices for you to consider. Feel free to take this with you as you're working on your own listings. We also have a link up here that you can access at any time if you'd like to see these things in a bit more detail. That's etsy.me/SEO-checklist. But yeah, these are some great SEO best practices to keep in mind. And I challenge you all to think about these too as we're looking at the listings today. We're going to try to give as many tips as we possibly can. I will say the listings we're looking at today are in great shape, but I challenge you to take some of these best practices with you as we're going through the different listings and critiques today and see if there's anything that you would add based on these best practices. I love seeing all of the participation in the chat, and I also think it can be really helpful for other sellers tuning in to hear what you all think as well. So feel free to take some of these with you and share your thoughts in the chat. But I'll just go through them really quickly and then we'll get to our listing critiques. All right, so the first one, use the tools that Katie just went over, the search visibility dashboard, Marketplace Insights. There's really so many great insights there that are actually really personalized and specific to your shop. Also, be sure to grab shoppers' attention with concise and clear titles. In our past EtSEO events, we've talked a lot about listing titles. It's kind of like a code to crack, I feel like. And once you get it, it's great. You want to be descriptive, but you want to be concise, right? You want to get as many relevant keywords in there as possible without making the title too long, too hard to read. Sometimes that can come across as spammy. So grab shoppers' attention with concise and clear titles. Keep them brief, but descriptive. Again, it's kind of like it's a fun little challenge there. Be sure to use all 13 tags. Of course, the more words and phrases you've applied to your listings, the wider the array of searches you can potentially appear in. Put your best photo first, right? This is something that buyers are going to see in search results and likely be one of the main factors that drives them to click on your listing to learn more. Add relevant attributes. Prioritize great customer service. You're more likely to have a repeat purchase, a repeat buyer. If you're offering great customer service, you're likely to have a better review coming out of that purchase, which in turn I think can influence your conversion rate, right? If someone's browsing your shop and they see really great reviews in there, that could be really helpful. Also, be sure to add clear shop policies. Consider offering compelling shipping prices while recovering those shipping costs. We've talked a lot about shipping in our previous EtSEO events. And then last, but certainly not least, don't be afraid to share your story, whether it's in your about section, a little bit of information in your listing description, or throughout your shop's imagery and branding. Giving buyers insight into who you are as the maker or what inspires you can build trust, credibility. It can help your brand resonate with those potential buyers, all potentially improving your conversion rate. Okay, ready for listing critiques? Panel, you ready to go? All right. Before we jump in, I wanted to just do like a quick topper because I don't think that we've ever had this before in an EtSEO session, but all of the listings that we're going to look at today are from shops that are star sellers. And so I want to give a round of applause to all of these shops that we'll be going through today. That's huge. Going back to like trust and credibility, that can be such a great signal. So love to see it. Congrats to those shops. Okay, here's our first listing that we're going to discuss today. This is very cool, very functional. This is a travel bag set from Denim Deco LT, which is based in Lithuania. And when I saw this listing, I actually immediately recognized the shop because they also sell denim oven mitts in their shop. And I know that those have an Etsy Pix badge.
They sure do.
Mary, for those who may be unaware, can you quickly tell us what an Etsy's Pick badge is, since that's a big part of your team's work?
Yes, an Etsy's Picks badge is how our merchandising team highlights listings we believe truly stand out on the marketplace. These selections are made by our style experts, and they're based on factors like quality, design, item photography, and sellers that are consistently delivering a great buyer experience. Each one of these is evaluated by a real human on our team. So it's important to note that this isn't something sellers can pay for, but is earned.
Nice, thank you for that. So when a listing receives an Etsy's Pick badge, it might also end up receiving additional visibility, right? If it's like pulled in for a marketing feature, or it might just experience improved search ranking just because it's kind of a trust signal, right? That small pill that shows up in search results.
That's right. Items with this badge can be filtered on in search, and it's a good indication that a shop is ready for Etsy's marketing initiatives for sure.
I think that's something we don't talk about enough in the context of search ranking is that like muscle of building trust. Like a listing is more likely to convert from a view to a sale if the buyer trusts that the item they're purchasing is legitimate and great, and that they're going to have a really solid experience if they decide to check out.
Yes, 100%. And I was noticing there are actually like a lot of strong trust signals that are happening with this listing. One thing that just really stood out to me is the photos. They're doing a really wonderful job of communicating the set's scale and size and all those different use cases, which is really cool.
Yeah, for sure. From a user experience standpoint, the breadth and depth of the pictures really help us understand what we are getting. It almost feels like it sits next to me right now.
Yeah, definitely. You're going to hear us say a lot today that you should be taking photos like there's no descriptions, and you should be writing descriptions like there's no photos. I heard that from a seller once, and I think that that is just so key. When we say that, this is what we mean by photos. Great product photography.
Yeah, really, really strong. I also love in the description, the seller's really transparent about how all the fees are being factored into the purchase price, which really can remove some of that like hidden cost anxiety that you see also with shipping sometimes. And I think that can be really great for conversion. One other thing in the description, they also included some clear care instructions and a note about the denim sort of patining over time, which is another way to set really clear expectations for the buyer.
I agree. I agree with all this. I think if they wanted to experiment or take their listing to the next level, my biggest piece of feedback is the photo lighting. And they're already doing this well in some other listings. So consistency might just be the key here. So if you look at their foldable denim tote listing, the natural light on this listing is really just, it's stunning. If they have the time to reshoot this travel set in that same soft natural light, it would take the listing to that next level. Still very clean and editorial, but paired with a more natural everyday setting. The natural light can help a buyer visualize these pieces in their own life. It's also just great for pulling through the fine details of the material and color, which is exactly what the merchandising team looks for when we're picking items to feature.
Yeah, I know what listing you're talking about. I think I'll try to drop it in the chat here so folks can see. But yeah, really beautiful, like natural light and really gorgeous, just like setting. That's great. Thank you, Mary. RG, anything on your end to add?
Plus 100 on everything that you all said. The one area of opportunity potentially is the item details in the descriptions. There's a lot of great information there, but it may be hard to read for some. Potentially, we can consider adding bullets or formatting so that it can be easier to read and parse through. This could help buyers who are quickly scanning and comparing items across the site to make a decision, which it's going to help them click buy, which can keep your conversion rate high, and healthy, and can help you rank higher and higher in search.
Yeah, those are great points. Etsy search considers keywords and phrases within your listing description when it does that query matching and then ranking. So when writing descriptions, you want to craft a sentence or two that casually incorporates a few of your top keywords in a way that sounds human and written in your brand's voice. And then the rest of the info, it can still contain keywords, but it should, as you said, RG, be really easy to read, I think. Another note on keywords, I just want to look at the tags here for a second. I actually think the seller's doing a great job with tags. First of all, they're using all 13, and I like how much they're leaning into different use cases and solutions. That's actually a great strategy. If you're stuck on like, oh, how can I explain this item like 5 more ways, leaning into use cases, solutions, a problem that your item solves, that's a great way to think through potential tags. My only flag here, and this is so nitpicky, I feel like the seller's doing a really great job. They do have this tag here that says women beach picnic, but they also have like men's flight bags. So I might just think through, exactly what this item is, exactly how you want to represent it. The beach picnic one maybe isn't as relevant. I would say check your marketplace insights to see if you can find an alternative tag to try out there. Just because, yeah, I don't know if this is giving beach bag for me, but again, that's super nitpicky. Maybe something about like the pockets or the snap closures on the item would be worth calling out. Like in this video here, I love that they actually show like that the bag can snap shut. I think that's a really cool detail. Maybe you want to swap that for like the beach bag. Otherwise, yeah, look at your marketplace insights and see if you can pick up any other ideas for that one. All right, great tips. Great first listing, everyone. Let's move on to our very adorable next listing here. This is a fused glass Seagull ornament on a driftwood base, and this is from Little Glass Robin. I love anything that's glass, and the fact that this is sitting on a driftwood base, like it adds such a beautiful organic texture. It contrasts perfectly with the glass. I feel like this is like the perfect piece of decor that you would have on your desk or on some of your styled shelves, maybe.
This is great coastal home decor, or even a gift for someone you want to remember your beach trip with.
Yeah, sweet. I love that.
I would add the photography is really sharp, clear, which is a great baseline, and great job showing angles and packaging. Looking at this from a merchandising perspective, to your point, Isabella, I want to see this in a home. Right now, the photos are all in the same setting, so I'd love to see it staged on a beachy bathroom vanity or coastal bookshelf. Helping a buyer visualize where it fits in their life could help sway buyers on the fence and thus improve the listing's conversion rate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this seller also has some great shots of the shorelines where she sources local driftwood for these on her Instagram account. I think it could add to the overall shop if she could somehow incorporate this kind of imagery into one of the listing photos or even in the shop about section. Just like you were mentioning at the top, buyers love to know more of the story behind the listing. And I think this could be just like such a nice way to show that and make it feel really local and differentiated.
Yeah, I love the idea of including that in the about section, but also maybe even in the listing photos. That's a great idea.
Yeah. I just gotta say, I like love these little guys so much. There's a bunch of different variations of them in their shop, and they're so cute. But on the note of photos, I was sort of struggling to get a sense of scale. And I think it's a little bit hard to tell how big this design is. So maybe using some of those available photo slots to show it next to a hand or a stack of books, some sort of recognizable items. So that can help clear up any confusion at a glance with the styling.
Yeah, good call. Remember, you can now add up to 20 images on a listing.
Oh, I love that update. And I would also really like to see a listing video included here. Since it's fused glass, I could see something like a behind the scenes video showing the production process being really engaging and to help convey some of the like work and craftsmanship that goes into this design a little bit more.
Love it. I think the videos and images that you described, that can build so much trust in the craftsmanship. What do you think, RG?
I love it. I think that making the listing even what would make the listing even more enticing is if we can package some of that styling or process into a video. I lean more towards the process so that buyers can understand how much love you're putting in what you're creating. Switching gears a bit from a keywords perspective, I feel that the title is literal, very literal, like fuse, glass, baby, seagull, ornament. That's amazing for clarity, very direct and to the point. I do wonder if ornament captures everything here. Maybe an additional phrase like coastal bird figurine is worth including. Moving past the title now, how can you capture those specific intent shoppers that have some potential long tail phrases that they are using when searching by including those phrases in your tags or description, like beach house, housewarming, gifts, or other things that marketplace insights can lead you towards.
Yeah, good call. Good plug for Marketplace Insights. Really great points about the keywords. I think the tags specifically are off to a good start. I might just suggest leaning into phrases that are more in line with like the style of the art or the use cases for the item. Sometimes it takes really small adjustments or even the right combination of adjustments with your keywords to see some movement. I do like the idea of like nursery decor, housewarming. I think like even office gift or desk gift would be fitting here.
These really are so giftable, and since it's top of mind for us in merchandising right now, I'll also just flag that around Mother's Day we see demand for grandmother gifts. These could be a really fresh way to personalize a grandparent's little pack of seagulls.
Oh, I love that, Mary. That's so sweet. I also encourage sellers to always consider things like seasonality when making keyword updates to your tags and your listing descriptions.
Yeah, and keywords aside, that also has me thinking, I love that they offer different size and multiple variations in the shop. They could also consider offering a custom option for buyers to select their own number of family members. They could personalize it to the size of their own family. Could be a sweet way to offer a coastal variation on a custom family art or mementos. This can be really popular with buyers.
That's such a great idea for evolving your inventory a bit to accommodate personalization, customization. We know that buyers love to shop on Etsy. That's a big driver for shopping on Etsy because you can get stuff personalized. You can make stuff really feel like your own when you're ordering it. So I do think that this could help potentially improve the conversion rate if a buyer was able to come in, find that listing that they love, and then really make it their own. All right, shall we move on to our next listing? All right. This is a bit of a shift in category. This is so cool and so creative. This is a green hand pillow, arm pillow from Muse, Georgia, based in Georgia. And again, I just love seeing all the star seller badges on all of these listings today. That's so nice to see.
That's such an amazing achievement and can certainly help with your listings conversion rate. Uh, just clicking on a listing and on search results, getting to the listing and discovering that there's a star seller signal there. It makes it so much easier to move forward with the purchase. It gives you peace of mind. It's kind of that the experience is going to be extremely smooth.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, a quick shop tip here would be to make sure your shop policies are fully filled out. It's an important factor for buyer peace of mind, and that's so critical to keep your conversion rate high.
Definitely good call. I did notice as well that this shop did not have their policies filled out. So, shop policies don't directly impact your star seller eligibility. They can impact your search ranking, and they just help set clear expectations, answer shoppers' questions up front, save you a little time with potential back and forth. So many reasons to make sure you have your shop policies in place. Katie, what do you think about this listing?
Okay, well, obviously these are so much fun and really creative. I think they would fall very naturally into the unique gift or whimsical decor sort of searches. And people love to shop for those types of items on Etsy. So this is a great fit for that. I also noticed that in the shop, these pillows come in an array of colors, but this listing just highlights the green version. So one thing that the seller might try is using listing variations to highlight some additional color options. Adding variations could help to keep a potential buyer engaged with the listing and make it easier to convert that interest into a purchase, which also just helps the overall conversion rate for the listing, which is something we were talking about at the top of the session.
Yeah, that could definitely be worth testing out. I love how many options they have in their shop. Like if you go directly to the seller's shop, you see all sorts of color variations there, which is really, really fun. Everything's looking really well stocked over there, but adding even just like all of the green shades in one variation or testing a few color variations on this listing could be helpful, similar to what we were saying earlier. Like you land, you get to customize your experience a little bit. I have to say, if you do explore color variations for the listing, it could be especially impactful to use that photo variations tool. Basically, when you apply that to your listing, it will make it so that when a shopper selects a color from a dropdown, the corresponding image updates automatically. So super seamless online shopping experience and gives buyers like additional confidence in what they're choosing. Mary, anything on your end to add here?
I'm also loving these pillows. I agree with Katie. It's a great unique gift here. Since there is room for the seller to add more photos, I'd suggest adding 1 to 2 of how the pillow is packaged and shipped so it feels gift ready.
Good call. I also think that people might just be curious how something like this is shipped.
True.
But yes, more photos would be great. They're only using a handful. And again, you have 20 slots available to you. So I think the seller could really tell a much bigger story and build more confidence with potential buyers by adding more photos. Mary, what's the first photo you would add here?
I think the first thing I'd add is a color palette shot. Since the description says these come in an array of colors, show them. A single photo featuring as many colors as you can see side by side would be a nice visual hook and also just highlight options in a really clean way. My favorite image they have is that third one that shows the 3. More like that even would be great.
I love that. Maybe let's just go around the room really quick and just like share your top idea for photos, since again, you can have up to 20 and we're only using a couple here. RG, any photo ideas?
Yeah, a process photo, maybe in the studio, seeing the fabrics, seeing the workspace in general, that can signal authenticity, that the listing is handmade. I'm also thinking about the texture. I'm kind of like so curious how this feels. There are no photos that take you up close to those kind of like super little kid hands that you have there. It's just like, how can we highlight the texture or the details? I would love to see that.
Yeah. Like the bangle, like the red fingernails. I feel like, yeah, you want to see that a little closer because those are really cool features. And yeah, to your point about like the fabric, how it feels, there are so many different types of velvet. I could like spiral on this, but there's crushed velvet, there's silk velvet. They all look very, very different. And so like I would love to just know more about like the velvet they're using or yeah, how you put it, RG. Like what does this feel like? How does that translate? We can talk more about that in the listing description as well. Katie, a final photo tip maybe from you?
Yeah, totally. I would +1 the like how it's packaged, how you'll receive it. I'm like so curious about that. I want to know. And I think that's like really a universal tip for folks. This is a particularly interesting use case because they're like huge and incredible. But showing in your listing photos how an item will be packaged is great. Also, if it's going to like a gift recipient as well. So just like eliminating any anxiety a potential shopper might have there. But to think of a creative tip, maybe some more lifestyle shots. This is like dopamine decor, sort of maximalist, which is very trendy. So maybe showing the pillows like styled in a room with other funky art or other fun objects that are sort of surrealist could be a fun editorial spin. But honestly, they're doing a really great job with the photos.
So fun. Love it.
And then one other thought, since you mentioned descriptions, maybe I can start there because I think there's definitely some room to expand and really maximize that space. Thinking about storytelling and engagement, it's so important for listing descriptions. And that's really a space where you want to balance search visibility with conversion, since you're not just trying to get found at that point. Someone has already landed on the listing page, so you're trying to get them to really complete the purchase. Leading with keywords is still important, so using them naturally in the first 1 to 2 sentences, which is great for Etsy and Google and other search engines so they can quickly understand what you're selling. But then using the rest of your description space to share like a clear, scannable, and benefit-driven story that engages the shopper while still naturally incorporating some of your keyword variations. I think for this listing specifically, I would suggest also calling out the bangle detail on the wrist. So it's really clear that that's an intentional part of the design and overall describing the feel of the pillow. So like you were talking about the velvet, that sort of crushed fabric feel. Also, is it firm? Is it squishy? You can sort of get a sense of that from the listing video that's in there. But don't forget to add those details in your descriptions as well. It's also great to include the care and cleaning instructions so the buyer knows how to keep it looking fresh.
Those are really great description tips. And now I'm thinking about the listing title. I'm going to go back here. Right now, the title is a bit long, but at the same time, it doesn't feel super descriptive. So I'm wondering maybe something like green velvet hand pillow, comma, sculptural throw pillow, comma, whimsical decor, something like that.
I think that's a great suggestion. And then recipients or potentially relevant occasions or gifting moments can go in the tags or description itself.
Speaking of the tags, these are feeling a bit broad right now. I think using terms like pillow and the best gift might not do too much for the listing in terms of that query matching.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Isabella. And that's why we always want to aim for long tail phrases too, because it's how shoppers are actually searching when they type something into the search bar.
Mhm.
Instead of using just generic tags, I'd probably recommend some more specific high intent options to pair with these. So thinking about, again, like maximalist decor or even quirky dorm decor if you wanted to be the coolest person in college with this giant pillow,
Would have loved having this in college.
right?
Those are great suggestions. I think when your keywords are more aligned with a shopper's specific search intent, your conversion rate naturally probably goes up just because you're getting in front of people who are most likely to buy your item.
I would speak to materials in the tags too. I think that helps you appear in searches where someone is shopping with a certain look and quality in mind.
Tell me about the velvet, right? That's a great tip, Archie. Thank you. Okay, a lot of tips for this one. This is a very fun listing to look at. I really enjoyed it. Anything else before we move on to our next listing?
I'm looking at these and I have an assortment expansion idea.
Of
Maybe
course you do.
always think, how can we expand the line? How can we translate this into other categories? Maybe there's something here that could translate to novelty pet beds. We do see really strong demand for pets right now, and sometimes people will prioritize really fun novelty purchases like these for their pets before they'll buy for themselves. So again, just something to think about as a way to cross into other potential categories while remaining like true to this like fun style.
That is great food for thought. Um, I am guilty. I am that person that like I won't buy it for myself, but I will buy it for my dog. Um, that's me. Okay. Let's move on to our next listing. Ah, this is so fun. I love this so much. This is a 60s hot pink chiffon maxi dress from Quiet Unrest, based here in the US. And I just love this listing. I love this shop actually. They have such a distinct point of view. When I ventured off of the listing and started poking around their shop, there's just such a theme. Like you can tell everything is really, really curated. I love when a vintage shop has a theme, has like a super intentional sort of look and feel to it. The collection that they're offering, very, very cohesive. The photography is very, very cohesive. You really feel that as soon as you land on their page. I know we're talking about listings today, but I just had to call that out. Like, I think they're doing a really good job there.
I completely agree, Isabella. Honestly, this shop is doing so much right. One of the first things that jumped out at me, besides how gorgeous the inventory is, of course, was how they've linked to additional categories right in their listing description. That's a great move because it keeps shoppers exploring your shop instead of bouncing back to the main search results.
Yes, totally. I love that as a shopper. And I would say also as a shopper, the FAQs are really helpful, especially for vintage. But in general, like having a strong FAQ section is just like such an easy win as a seller. Having clear info for sizing and returns is especially vital for vintage. And sizing info that's specific to the listing is really clearly outlined in the description as well. So giving that information to buyers up front removes the like, will it fit me guesswork that's always really top of mind with vintage. And it can be the difference between a view and a sale.
I think it just makes you like appear more credible too as a seller that you thought of everything, right? Like you like are dealing with a seller who knows their stuff. I agree with all of those tips across the board. They're providing so much clarity. They're keeping you engaged in their shop with those listing descriptions, linking out to other listings. I think that's such a great call. As you were saying, Mary, like it really makes the shopping experience feel smooth, but it's also a great way to just like keep buyers looking at your inventory in particular. One thing I noticed when exploring this shop a little bit more, and I don't have it here because this is just the listing, but the about section was feeling very brief. So I think it could be helpful to revisit this space and just ensure it's telling your story in a way that really reflects your brand today. I know some sellers are guilty of creating an about section right when they set up their shop, and then 10 years will go by and it's the exact same. Just take another look at it and make sure you feel like it's the best representation of where your brand is at, what you're selling, how your Etsy shop has evolved, and is really like amplifying your story. Whether it's about you as the maker or the curator in this case, or it's like the origin, the inspiration behind your shop. You can also incorporate images and videos in your about section to help bring your shop's story and your brand to life. The more robust and engaging an about section is, that can really help build trust and connection with your buyers, which could influence purchasing decisions. Many shoppers come to Etsy because they want to support real people and buy from small businesses. So I just had to do my about section plug. As I mentioned at the top of this critique, the seller has a very clear point of view. It's very intentional. It's very well curated. I'd just love to see that, appear in the about section as well.
Yes, for sure. And I think that buyers also would love to read it. And just a reminder that having your shop's about section filled out can give you a boost in Etsy search, right?
Well, there you go. Okay, let's move over to the photos. Such beautiful photos. Mary, would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, looking at the photography, their current style is already working well. You can see this translate in the sales, but I do have a challenge for them. Their Instagram showcases really stunning shots in natural light. I'm a big fan of natural light, and I know there's only so many hours in the day, but if they can reserve their photography for those daylight hours, it would be a game changer. Natural light could really pull through the intricate details of the chiffon material here, the true vibrancy of that tropical floral print. When a buyer sees that real color and texture, they might be more likely to hit add to cart.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip, Mary. And to build on that, since this is a beautiful gown, I would love to see a listing video to show the movement. Chiffon is all about how it flows, and just shooting that on a model would be really cool, I think, to just sort of translate the three-dimensional aspects of this item as well. Seeing how it drapes on a human could help the buyer visualize it for themselves better than just being on like a hanger or a flat lay or a mannequin.
I agree, Katie. RG, any thoughts on the keywords? I'm curious what you think about the title in particular.
It's a little bit long, but honestly, really relevant phrases here. If they want to experiment with a more concise option, easier to read, to see if that helps, maybe something like 60s hot pink chiffon floral gown would work well. And then for the listing tags, let's not forget this opportunity here. We can capture more intent shoppers. I would recommend adding specific occasions or events. Think about tags like prom or bachelorette, right?
Yeah, I would also add wedding guest dress. We're headed into peak wedding season right now. Folks are looking for guests, what they're going to wear to the wedding, or 60s party too. You've got 60s in here, but adding 60s party, you'd be surprised at how many people are searching for that era's party.
Totally. I love the idea of wearing this to like a summer wedding. So cute. I love the idea of just tagging for the specific events too. Then you're potentially showing up in those searches when a buyer's searching, like they're searching for a solution for what do I wear to this event. So yeah, like I think prom, RG you mentioned, bachelorette parties, wedding guests, those are all really, really great ideas. And lots of advice today around like intent shoppers, which I really like that we're talking about. So for this listing, like just to wrap up, combining that distinct brand point of view that we know they have, you can tell just by looking at the shop, with some natural light photography, Mary, and some event-based keywords, I think this listing is like unstoppable. So good. All right, we are going to move on to our last listing for the day. This is a glass wave ring from Altia Gizmo, based in Greece. And this is such a beautiful, minimal, but really fun piece of jewelry. It's clean, it's simple, but it has that touch of whimsy, which is so popular right now. What do you guys think?
I agree. This shop has such a beautiful assortment. My first tip is to lead with the value in the title. I would suggest something like waterproof, tarnish-free Murano glass ring. And then I would clarify the material further in your tags. I sound like a broken record, but we have tags, we have listing descriptions, we can use them. I think the 100% handcrafted Murano glass is a huge selling point, right?
I agree. The Murano glass is, for me at least, that was like something that I immediately was like, oh, tell me more. Love that. And speaking of the description, she's outlined that her technique is so rich, but it's currently just all in the text. I'll go over to the description. You can see a preview of it here. I wonder if it's possible to add more of a visual aid to help bring that to life, like a listing video or photos that include the glass making process. I think that would be such a powerful signal, just that this is handcrafted and kind of highlight what makes those pieces so special, the nature of glass pieces, why they're so special.
I agree. And, I noticed she's already doing this over on her Instagram page, like bringing those process shots in. So she just needs to bring that storytelling into her Etsy shop. I was going to add, regarding the descriptions and even tags, consider major gifting occasions like Mother's Day, birthdays, and Valentine's Day. And just be sure you're making updates as needed seasonally. That's how you're going to capture those intent shoppers who are looking for a special gift for a specific occasion.
Good call. And if you're stuck on what is like seasonally relevant or trending in your category for buyer searches, I'm going to do another plug. Definitely check out the Marketplace Insights tool. We mentioned it before. Marketplace Insights can help you identify different keyword opportunities and understand search trends. And as we're going to continue improving that tool, we're actually testing updates in there that make tracking trends and refining your listings even more simple. For example, you can now see week over week trends in there. So that'll help you quickly assess whether buyer interest in a specific search term is rising or following. And I think that can help with sort of like the question of seasonality too.
Love that tool. I love it so much. And I love that they're continuing to improve it. That's like a really great reminder. Just keep checking back there, and there's so much learning that you can do. Looking at this listing, I also love the photos. I think the natural light that's happening here is so beautiful. That being said, would love to see some more styled shots, and also maybe use the photo variation tool to help make things even clearer for buyers. Especially because they have so many great color options for this product, which is really a strength. There's like something for everyone. But using that tool, photo variations, makes it clear as someone's shopping. They can just choose from the drop down, and then it's linked to the photo directly, like we talked about before. And it's just much smoother, much more intuitive as a shopping experience. And it's a good reminder that reducing friction for buyers is just key to improving your conversion rate over time. So I would say that's a big takeaway overall. If you're thinking about optimizing your listings, is like, how can you eliminate some of the friction that a buyer might experience? What are the questions that they might have when they're coming to your listing? And how can you preempt those questions?
Great call out. I think too, like, it's kind of industry standard now. Like anytime you go to a website, whether it's Etsy or not, you'll see those variations linked up with the different actions and selections you can make. So yeah, really great call there. All right. So many great tips, and we are like right on time. I feel like that is a change for us. The Q&A is now open, folks. So if you want to make your way over to the Q&A section of this event space, you can start dropping in your questions there. I think we have time for one or two. I'm going to try to get through two in our 2 minutes that we have left. Oh my gosh, they are coming in fast. Thank you so much. Okay, one that I can answer really quickly. Where can I rewatch this video? So in 24 to 48 hours, this video will be uploaded directly to the event page where you RSVP'd, and you can also catch the replay over on the Etsy Success YouTube page. You'll be able to see other EtSEO events there as well. Okay, wow, the chat is moving so fast. Okay, first question here. Do I need to include charm and charms in my keywords? I think what this seller is asking is if we need to include both the singular and plural version of a word in their titles or tags. We talk a lot about not needing to have so much repetition across your keywords. So I think that is the question behind the question, maybe. So no, you don't need to include both. You don't need to worry about including the plural version. When a shopper enters their query, we're actually looking at the root word. So for example, if someone searches diaries and you only have diary outlined on your listing, you're going to show up in both searches. Our search algorithm is able to ensure that you are relevant and visible for both. That's a great question. I saw RG like nodding his head too, so I feel good about that. Okay, someone's asking if we can talk more about the whimsical trend. I did mention during one of our critiques that whimsy is having a moment. Mary, I'm wondering if there's anything you can add there. I know that's kind of a general question about whimsy, but anything to call out there specific to like trends and yeah, appealing to buyers there?
Yeah, that's a great question. Think like really whimsical. You're thinking like flowing in terms of fashion and linens and bedding, the opulence there, and light, bright colors, garden scenes, all of that beautiful sort of like whimsical that comes through in nature.
That's great. Yeah, I also feel like I'm just seeing across Etsy, because honestly, sellers are the ones that are starting a lot of these trends, which is so cool. Also on social media, it's fun to add a touch of whimsy into your day-to-day, whether it's your like home decor or your outfit. People are looking for that really, really little bit of whimsy in their day-to-day.
And I'll just add a quick shameless plug for our seller trend report, which just came out. And we have a whole section on World of Whimsy in there. It's on the seller handbook. And I would highly recommend taking a look in there as well for more inspiration.
That's great. There's so many trends outlined in there. How many different trends are in there, Katie? Do you know off the top of your head?
Too many good ones to count.
Okay. At least like 6 or 7 in there.
Yeah, definitely.
Another question here is, how would I prioritize making my shop more visible? It's hard to say just without having your shop directly in front of you. Maybe we can do just like a quick round robin, like our top tip for improving your search visibility without having, the shopper listing in front of you. I think all of us bring different expertise to the table here. So let's see how this goes. I would say lean on your shop stats. Look at the data. If you have words and phrases that are not consistently showing up in your shop stats as things that are bringing buyers to your shop, those words and phrases maybe aren't working so well for you. And my top tip would be to remove anything that's not showing up in your shop stats as a driver and try out something else. Earlier, we talked about how sometimes it's just making small adjustments or even the right combination of adjustments to see some movement. So yeah, that is without having your shop in front of me, like thinking about keywords and actions you can take, I say lean into the data and use that as your guide.
I'm happy to
Katie,
jump in. Oh, go
very
ahead. Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. I would think about seasonality and some of those different occasions throughout the year too. We mentioned that the buyers are thinking for specific occasions as the season changes, that's giving them reasons to come back and search. So thinking about which items in your current assortment you might be able to update for seasonality, or as you're thinking about introducing new items to your assortment, doing it at those shifts of the season and calling out those keywords in your shop.
Thanks, Mary. Katie, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. I think really looking critically at your first listing photo is so important. Because really, if you think about how it's showing up in all of these different surfaces, all these different spaces, if someone's searching, you want to get that click through, because then it opens up the opportunity for them to see all of these other really incredible details that you've added to your listing. But without a strong first listing photo, you might miss out on that opportunity. So I would experiment. I think experimentation is really, really critical when it comes to SEO. And so experimenting and thinking about that impact of your first photo.
Maybe running some like A/B tests to sort of understand your target market and what they're gravitating towards.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's going to resonate in a pretty small space? You know, people are shopping on their phones, they're shopping with search results that have multiple listings next to them. So you just want to actually do some market research to see what you're showing up as.
That's a great tip. RG, do you want to give one more tip here?
Yeah, plus one on everything. I will give two. Pictures and videos are kind of like always my favorite thing. When I see them on listings, I can really understand what the listing is all about, what it's made from. And then I personally like checking out the about section of the shop and learn about the creator. That's why I usually come to shop at Etsy.
Yeah, definitely. We talked a little bit about sections, but I think they can just really help with your conversion rate. I think, like, especially if you're somebody who's torn between two different listings, you know, just sharing your story there and having an opportunity to resonate directly with your buyer, that human connection, I think can be so important and play such a key role.
I would just add really quick, I think it was really cool today that we just happened to get all-star sellers in the mix. Like, that randomly happened, which is awesome. And
Yeah.
those are great trust signals. Setting up an about section is a trust signal. So if you're a new shop, like I saw in the chat that some folks were like, these are great tips, but these shops are already nailing it. And I think
True. I was like, y'all, they're randomly selected.
But setting up an about section and having those details, that's another type of trust signal that you can send to buyers if you're just getting started. So just a call out there.
Great call. And I think that's a great note to end on. We are a little bit over time here. So just really quickly, I will do a plug for some additional resources. If you want to continue on with your SEO learning, please, please, please check out Etsy's Seller Handbook. There is so much great stuff in there. Of course, if you are a busy seller, which I know all of you are, which is why I appreciate your time today so much. These are the two articles that I would call out. The Anatomy of a Well-Crafted Listing. This is a great breakdown that Katie and her team put together. It really highlights all the different signals that a buyer sees when scanning a listing, following clicking on it from search results. You're going to find a lot of great tips there, really like practical tips. And then the Ultimate Guide to Etsy Search. This is where we put everything you need to know about search, how keywords work, how customer service plays a role, you know, where photography comes into play. There's so much there. So please, 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 if you only have time to check out a few things, these are the 2 resources I would recommend looking at. All right. And before we go, I know we said that we were going to have a little bit of a surprise. So we are giving away 5 more listing critiques. If you were here today in the chat, we have randomly selected from there 5 more listing critiques. And I know the team just dropped them in the chat. The chat's moving so fast, but I'm going to try to read them. The Artie Apples, Franny CA Boutique, Long Hope Farm and Fiber, AA When Graving, and Lawnray Studio. You all are going to get a listing critique from our team. So stay tuned. We will follow up via email to get in touch with you about your listing critique. Thank you again for joining today. Again, I know you're all busy. I know your time is super valuable. So really appreciate you showing up today to learn and to hang out with the Etsy community, our team here. It's been a pleasure, and we will see you next time. Panel, Mary, RG, Katie, thank you all so much for being here today. It was great to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.